Okay. All right. Okay, good. So it is Saturday afternoon, July 19th, and I wanted to get myself back on track for my Serger Savvies. And in May, I had said we were going to do Serger Pintucks on knit fabric, and I wanted to show you that today. But this is off schedule for today, but from here on in, from August going forward, I'll be back on my second Tuesday of the month at noontime for Serger Savvies. And as always, I will record it so that if you can't catch it live, you can catch it on my YouTube channel for the recording. And you're welcome to send in questions. Again, hi Deidre. Okay, well, that's okay. You're doing a dog transport. Well, great. Thanks for joining me. As I said, this is kind of like a surprise session. But anyway, I hope you're all having a great summer. I wanted to just mention a few housekeeping things ahead of time. Again, I am a proud Bernina ambassador, and if you are thinking about purchasing a machine, and I know a lot of the dealers have fantastic deals going on now for machines as well as software, but any purchase over $1,000 in the US only, because this is a thank you from Bernina of America. If you have not put any money down yet, haven't made the purchase yet, this has to be before you make that. You are eligible for an ambassador rebate coupon. So again, if you're thinking about buying a machine but you haven't done it yet and you haven't put down a deposit or anything, shoot me an email with your mailing address and I will put the appreciation $100 rebate coupon in the mail for you. And this is cash. It takes about, I think it takes about 6 weeks to process, so you won't get it the day after you put it in, but it is a $100 check as a thank you from Bernina for supporting my YouTube channel as well as purchasing their machine or software. So that's great. And as you know, there's usually some Christmas in July fun going on, so stay tuned for that. I may be doing some special deals on a few different items for Christmas in July, and that'll be July 25th through the 31st, so just be on the lookout for that. Hey Kim, how are you? Yes, it will stay on YouTube, Kim. It's being recorded. So if you can't stay on for the whole time, you can definitely catch the whole session in the recording. Hey, Sherry. Your computer controls are at 100%. I think um, all of my settings are good. I don't know if anyone else is having a problem, but oh, okay. Okay, well, anyway, but thank you all for joining me. I wasn't sure whether I'd see anybody or not because I didn't make an announcement about this. But as I said, today we are going to do a really cool technique that I developed a bunch of years ago, but I never showed it in a tip clip or anything else. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, I thought, that's a really great technique for people to keep in their back pocket if they're making any knit garments, if they want to add some texture or something special to the surface design of it. And you can see in back of me, this is my Triangulate the T, and I have the Serger Pintucks on this. And this fabric, I'm going to move it forward just a little bit. This fabric is a very unstable rayon knit. And it was pretty persnickety to work with. And I discovered this technique out of frustration, basically. And here's the back. You can see the Pintucks. And in between it, I did chain, triple cover stitch, narrow cover stitch, chain again, just for surface design. And I just used embroidery thread in the chain looper for these ones. These are rolled hem Pintucks, and that's what we're going to show you today. But when I first started experimenting with this technique, no matter what I turned my differential feed to, or what I did for the presser foot pressure or anything else, no matter what I did, the fabric got distorted. And it was because it was a very lightweight rayon knit. And this would happen even if you had a more stable knit, but we're working in the crosswise direction. If there's enough stretch in that direction, which typically there is in knit fabrics. Oh, somebody's waiting for their L890QE. Thank you. I'm glad you have learned a lot. Hi, Carol Garrett. Good to see you, or good to have you here. So anyway, when I was doing this, and this was done for my Craftsy cover stitch class, and I kept thinking, I wish somebody made a wash away sticky stabilizer. And honestly, I'm not a huge machine embroiderer, so I don't always keep up with everything that's new on the market. And this was done a number of years ago. So I went over to my local sewing store, and lo and behold, guess what? They do have a sticky wash away stabilizer. And the one that I'm using is the Sulky Sticky Fabri-Salvi. And I know a lot of different brands have similar products, but that one happened to be the one that they carried, so I bought it. And it worked out perfectly, because you do not have to touch your differential feed for this technique, which, I mean, that's almost unheard of when you're working on a knit fabric, right? So anyway, let me show you a close-up. This is an actual garment. This is the Triangulate the T View B with a little V cut out in the back. Let me show it to you, though, on the fabric that we're using. I just did a quick sample for you to look at. There it is. This is a slightly heavier knit fabric, but there's still quite a bit of stretch to it. You can see going crosswise, there's a lot of stretch to it. But here are the Pintucks, and they're all perfectly fine. There's no stretching crosswise on the fabric at all. And that's exactly what we're looking for on this. And the magic ingredient is that sticky wash away stabilizer. So I have got my machine set up for a 3-thread rolled hem. If you wanted to use a decorative thread in your upper looper, which is, as I've always called it, excuse me, the money looper, that thread is the one that shows most predominantly in a rolled hem setting. You could certainly do it. I have a few suggestions, though, while we're talking about threads and stitch length as well when it comes to the garment sewing. Let's go back to this sample that I did. I'm just going to move my ruler out of the way. I want to mention something about that as well. On this sample, I just used Serger cone thread in all 3 positions, okay? And so that is a relatively lightweight thread. If you wanted something even lighter for your Pintuck, say you're doing something on an even more sheer, I think on the one in back of me, I used embroidery weight thread in my upper looper because it was just that much lighter. But if you're using something like, say, a 12 weight decorative thread, you may want to lengthen your stitch, because if your stitching is very dense and close together, it's going to make those Pintucks stiff. And I have a real bugaboo about when you're working on knit fabrics, whether you're doing, excuse me, an embroidery. I'm not sick. This is my allergies. If you're doing an embroidery or anything like Pintucks or any other decorative techniques, I don't like that area that's being embellished to be like a piece of cardboard, while the rest of the fabric is very soft and fluid, the way most knit fabrics, you want them to stay that way. So you want to experiment on your scrap fabric with your stitch length, your needle, the thread. You may want to use that 12 weight thread, but after you stitch it out, you might want to change your mind and go to a lighter weight thread. But again, it's a matter of what you're working with for the fabric and the look that you want, and how soft you want those pin tucks to feel. You don't want, I don't think you'd want that area to be really super stiff and like a piece of cardboard. So what you're going to do with this, the stabilizer, I'm going to go on to, let me go back to that camera again. You're just looking, here's my hand. All right, so here's one that I did on a piece of fabric, same fabric. And what I've done on the back, I want to show you. This one is already stitched with the stabilizer. I put another line of the stabilizer. I drew my lines for the position of my pin tucks first, and these are about 1.5 inches apart. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your strip, and I think I cut these about, probably about 1/2 inch wide, but honestly, for pin tucks, all you would really need is to have that be about 1/4 inch wide if you were short on your stabilizer. So what I'm going to do is let me just bring out my camera just a little bit more so you can really see. I'm just going to peel off the stabilizer from the backing paper. Sometimes that's the hardest part of the whole shebang. Yeah. As I said, that can be the trickiest part of the whole thing. Okay, here we are. So I'm peeling it off, and I'm going to put the sticky side right against that line. Keep it right on the line. I'm not stretching or pulling it. I'm just holding it so that it goes on smoothly. And I'm going to do, well, I think we can do that. And I'm just going to trim off this excess because I don't like that sticky adhesive to slow it down going onto the bed of the machine. So we've got that. We've got a couple of lines here. Now, the other thing is that if you want all of your pin tucks, so let me go back to me. If you want all of your pin tucks to go in the same direction, you want to start on the same edge of your fabric. And a few other tips that I have. I know when I was doing this top, what I did, instead of trying to figure out ahead of time how much fabric each pin tuck was going to consume as far as the length of the piece, the V insert, what I did was I just cut a larger piece of the fabric and then cut my V piece after all of my embellishing was done. Let me just check my questions. Sherry says yes, peeling the paper, and I find that true, like also with the Wonder Tape and stuff like that. And it always comes right off when I'm all by myself in my studio, but when I'm in front of a classroom or on video, it always is a problem getting that to stick off, but or unstick. But anyway, so here are my preparatory suggestions. Number one, you're going to want to cut your piece of fabric longer and wider than you need, because even though they're pin tucks and they're in a rolled hem setting, they do consume length. And we're going to measure this piece that I just put the stabilizer on. It started off as 8 inches long. That I measured precisely ahead of time just for this video, so that you would see and be able to understand exactly what I'm saying about the pin tucks using up length on your fabric. So I cut the fabric ahead of time, and particularly on the front pieces. Let me just show you this. They're a little bit chevron. They're not straight across. They're a little bit chevron. So when I cut that, the fabric wasn't going directly crosswise on the actual garment itself. But you want to be aware that if you cut that piece of fabric ahead of time with your pattern piece, and then you create the pin tucks on it, by the time you put it on your actual garment, it's going to be too short because of the fabric that's used up per pintuck. And how much is used really depends on, number one, how many pintucks you're making on the fabric. Also, how far apart they are too. And even if you were doing something with vertical pintucks and say you wanted them to face the center, say on a bodice of a shirt or a dress, again, you'd want to cut considerably wider than the original pattern piece, so that then when, after you've created those pintucks, you put your pattern piece on top of it and cut it to the correct size. And that will save you a lot of headaches, okay? So, hi Uta, how are you? Good to hear from you. I'm so surprised people are jumping on here. This is great. I was hoping that on Saturday, maybe around lunchtime for me on the East Coast, that people might say, oh, they'd be scrolling through and see this. So I'm so excited that you joined me. Thank you. Okay, so let's go back. And also, if you want all of your pintucks to go in the same direction with those rolled hem stitching, you want to start on the same edge of your fabric. And I'll show you what I do. Let me go back to my table camera. Okay, so, okay, here we go. So what I did was I made a little mark on the side that I always want to start stitching across from. And that way I know that if I got interrupted, say I got a phone call or I just had to walk away from my machine for a minute, that I'm always starting and that my pintucks are always going to be going in the same direction. Now, if you were doing something, say again, going back to a bodice on a shirt or a blouse or something like that, and you wanted your pintucks, the one side to match this or head toward the center, the other side to head toward the center. This side you'd start over here, this side you'd start down on the opposite, whichever way you're doing, so that they would all look like each other when you finish. And I hope that's clear. If it isn't, let me know. And if you were doing a specialty thread in that upper looper, that would be important. And you don't want to have to pick out pintucks because the rolled hem stitching is so delicate and narrow. Dollars to donuts, you may poke a hole in your fabric or snag it or do something that you don't want to do. So let's go over, let's take a look at this one more time. Here's one that's already stitched. So let me switch my camera. Here's one that's already stitched. There's my starting edge that I'm going to pay attention to. I have put my sticky wash away stabilizer on the back of that, and let me just show you something. When I pull on that, you see there is no stretch whatsoever in that fabric. That is the whole key to this technique. So it holds it stable, as opposed to, say, down here, if I didn't have that in and I was fiddling around with my differential feed, I know darn well I would get either a wavy looking pintuck or it would just look funky and it wouldn't look right. But with this stabilizer, here's the key: zero stretch. It's really, really a great technique. So if you have a knit garment or another type of knit project, I don't know what else, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head, but if you have another knit project and you said, oh, it's so plain, there's no print on it or anything else, I wish I could add something to it, keep this in mind. And this would also work for a variety of other types of embellishment as well. But today we're just going to stick with the rolled hem pintuck. So let's go over, I'm going to go over to my machine and let's take a look at my settings. Now I'm set up for stitch number 8, but you've heard me say before that the default setting on the lower looper is 5.5. Honestly, I like it higher. And because I'm going through 2 layers of fabric, that higher setting really does give me a nice rolled hem pintuck. So I crank up that from 5.5 to 7, and I'll show you the screen in a second. I have serger cone thread in my right overlock needle, upper looper, and lower looper. It's a 3-thread overlock pintuck. I should say rolled hem pintuck. Also, my cutting width is on 5.5. That's my stitch width as well. And I have my stitch length on 1.3. That and your stitch width are variable. You'll want to test them on your fabric to see what you like. And some of it is purely personal preference. Kim, that is my triangulate the T pattern. And the one with the V cut out in the back is view B. And this is just a little bit off topic. But I will tell you, the V in the back is an applique and cutaway technique. And there's a whole story behind that. But even somebody who is, say, a confident beginner sewist can get a really nice V on that, right down to the point with that applique and cutaway. And all of that information is in that pattern. But it's triangulate the T. I do not have that in a digital form. I just have the print patterns, but you can get those on my web. You know, you can order them from my website, gailpatrice.com. Okay, so let's take a look at my presser foot and screen, because I've got one other thing to tell you about. Let's look at the screen first. Okay, so you see I am on stitch number 8, 3-thread rolled hem. Right needle tension setting is on 4. The upper looper is on 4, and the lower looper I've cranked up to 7. I have my needle up. I have my presser foot pressure on 4. That's the default setting. And my stitch length is on 1.3. So that's that. And again, serger cone thread in all 3 positions. Now, let's go to the presser foot. On this one, what I did was I am using my blind stitch foot. I was having a brain skip for a second. My blind stitch foot, because it has this little guard. I think I can bring this in maybe a smidge closer. There we go. It has this little guard that I have gotten all the way over to protect the rolled hem from the knife. Now, if you do not have the blind stitch foot, or whatever foot you like to use for your brand's serger, that's fine. You can also lock down your knife, and I think it should be fine. But I like using that blind stitch foot because it does have that guide on it. It makes it super easy to ride along that one, and I don't have to worry about nicking the fold of the fabric with the knife. Now, another tip that I wanted before we go to the machine, let me go back to my table shot. I have this all adhered to the fabric. I'm going to start stitching on this edge because here's my mark that's telling me this is the side I want to start on. What I'm doing is I'm going to fold my fabric right over that stabilizer. And what I want to do, and especially if you're doing something wide, like on my actual top back there, not something, this is only about, I don't know, like about 4 inches wide. It's pretty easy to manage. But what you want to do as you're stitching along is with your hands, you want to make sure that the edge of that fold is hugging the edge of that stabilizer tightly. You want to make sure that it's right over that and that it's not rolled even a fraction of an inch away. And that will give you that perfectly positioned pintuck. There's a little alliteration for you. So you want to just make sure it's nice and snug. And I really feel that as I go along and I'm stitching and as the fabric is going under the presser foot, I really do make sure that that fold is right on the edge of that stabilizer strip. So I think that's pretty good. Are there any questions before that? Jack and Doreen said, is there a reason not to disengage the knife? As I said, if you do not have a blind stitch foot or a foot with a guide on it, if you have, I know Baby Lock has a lace applicator foot that has a guide on it, you could certainly use that. But if you don't have any of the above, and you are afraid of nicking the edge, yes, you can definitely disengage the knife. It's not going to be a problem with this. So you can just lock it down. But because I have this guide that's protecting the edge, whether I have it up or down is not going to make a difference. So let's go over to the machine. I'm going to put my camera on so that you can see, just in case you missed it, the settings that I have. And again, that stitch length and the cutting width or stitch width, those are variable. And you can see, let me lighten this up just a touch. I think that's better. You can see how this guide on the blind stitch foot is protecting. It's like a little shield against the knife. So I'm going to bring my fabric over, and again, I'm making sure that I've got that fold of the fabric right against the edge of the stabilizer strip. I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to get my threads out of the way here so they don't get caught. Also, one other thing that is good with cutting a piece wider and longer than you need is that if you don't happen to hold on to your thread tails getting started and you get kind of a clump of stitching at the beginning of the fabric, that will be trimmed away anyway, so it's not a big deal. So I've got that fabric fold against here, and it's also hugging the edge of that stabilizer. I'm going to hold my thread tails, even though I don't have heavier weight thread in here. I'm going to hold it just to get it going so that it's a nice smooth start. And now that I've taken a few stitches, I can certainly let go. And this is where I stop, and I make sure that fold hasn't moved away from the stabilizer edge. Beautiful. Okay, so let's take a quick peek at that. I'm just going to cut off these little thread tails at the beginning and end, and we'll do it one more time. But here's the one that I just did. Here it is right here. You can see that. Looks great. And see, these would all be, if once I wash away the stabilizer, I would give it a press in this direction. And I always say to people, make sure that you use a press cloth over your knits, especially because most of them have some polyester in them, or there's always some lycra in them too, and that helps avoid getting any shine. But you can see absolutely no distortion. I pull on them, there's no stretching whatsoever. So let's do one more and take a look. We'll go back to the machine. Any questions of that? Let me just make sure. Okay, this is great. I am so excited that people actually found this. This is great. Okay, let me go back to, I think this is good. Okay, I think I'll try to bring this in just a hair. Okay. All right, so again, I am looking for where that mark was on the edge of the fabric so that I'm starting on that edge, folding down my fabric, and really, let me just show you what I'm doing again with that. I just want you to be aware. Here's my mark right here. So I'm going to start on this edge. And when I go to the machine, I kind of with my finger or thumb roll that fabric to make sure it's right against that edge of the stabilizer, okay? So that's my little technique. If you have one that you like to use and it works well for you, then great, use that too. So here we go. Let's go back here. Move my scissors over. I'm going to raise my presser foot, get this right in up close to the needle because I don't need the knife to trim off any before we get started. I'm not worried about a clean edge on the fabric at all. Put my presser foot down. I am again rolling. Let me bring it out just a hair so you can see what I'm doing. I am with my fingers feeling and rolling that fabric right against the edge of the stabilizer, holding my thread tails to get going. And I also have in a stretch needle. What you use for the needle is important. So you'll want to test it. Some knits will stitch perfectly fine with either an ELX 705 or ELX 705 SUK with a ballpoint. This I just happened to have a stretch needle and it worked well. So here we go. And I normally don't stitch quite that slowly, but I find that the camera has less bounce to it if I stitch a little more slowly. So let's take a look at these 3 pin tucks again. Look at how pretty those are. That looks great. And you see the edges of the fabric, there is no stretching. It's all straight, exactly the way it should be. So that tells you how much of a difference it makes. And let's see what the measurement, I don't think this one was, oh yes, this, okay, so now I haven't washed away the stabilizer, so this may not be 100% accurate, but this started off as an 8-inch long piece of fabric. Let's bring this up. And now with just 3 pin tucks 1.5 inches apart, it comes out to be about between 7 1/8 and 7 1/4 inches long. So with just those 3 pin tucks, the pin tucks ate up almost about 3/4 of an inch of the fabric. And that's why I wanted to make sure that everybody kind of understood that. And that's why I always cut out the piece much bigger and wider, longer and wider than the actual project piece. And then I cut the pattern piece out from there. But you'll work all that out with your samples, with your scrap fabric, and I think you'll be in good shape with it. But then the next step I would do, and if you need to pre-wash to make sure all the shrinkage is out of your fabric, because you are going to have to rinse out the stabilizer, don't forget that. I would just rinse this away, let it dry if it's fabric that you can throw in the dryer, but I'm not real big on doing that with stuff with Lycra in it, simply because I think it wears out the elastic faster. Let it dry, give it a press, and you're good to go. But look how beautiful those are. It's really pretty. It's very accurate, and it's not hard. That's the whole thing. It's not hard. So that's the thing that I love about it, is that it makes a really, really nice pin tuck on knit fabrics. You don't have to be afraid of that. And I have done this, as I said, this one was a rayon knit, super stretchy, thin, and kind of unwieldy without any stabilizer on it. I've even done this with a silk knit. I don't have it with me right now. I think it's out in a trunk show. But anyway, you can do that with all sorts of different knits. Now, would I do that with something thicker like a sweatshirt fleece or something like that? No, because too heavy for pin tucks or a rolled hem stitch, I should say. But if you wanted to do a flat fold tuck on something like that, you could. I would experiment first. Again, sweatshirt fleece can be bulky. You might not want that much bulk built into a garment or other type of project, but you can test that out. But by using that sticky wash away stabilizer, and as I said, mine was the sulky, let me just show you, the sulky Fabrisolve. And that worked really well. But I know OESD, I think all of the stabilizer companies now have them. For a while, it was kind of a brand new concept, but now I think a lot of them have it. So whatever is your favorite stabilizer, a sticky wash away should work well on that without any problems at all. But that was the one that I used. So are there any questions about that at all? Anything that anybody wanted to know more about? It's just a great technique. It's really slick, it's easy, and it's fun to do. And you look like a real champ when you do that, especially on a knit fabric. You could even, if you were working, say, on a bias grain line on a woven fabric, do the exact same thing. You don't have to worry about stretching or distortion of your fabric either. Makes that very, very easy on a bias grain line. Or even if you had say a woven fabric, like I'm thinking in terms, since it is summertime, I'm thinking like double gauze or a gauze fabric, something very lightweight, loosely woven, that even on the crosswise or lengthwise direction could distort with stitching. You could even use this technique with something like that and get excellent results. It's just a super technique for all different types of fabrics and different applications on that. So anyway, but I am so glad that people found this. I'm Doreen, I hope you and Jack get your L890QE. And I'm glad that you've learned a lot. And please don't hesitate to send in your questions to me. Also, I am looking for ideas for upcoming Serger Savvies as well. I will be back to my second Tuesday of the month at noon. It's always recorded, so if you're not around when I do the live or you've got something else going on, perfectly fine. You can catch the replay. The other thing that I do want to say, though, is that if you have a question watching the recording, email it to me, gail@gailpatrice.com, because I do not go back and look at the chat questions. So if you put in a question in the chat while you're watching the recording, I won't see it. And I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. I'll be very happy to answer you. Okay, Samina, great. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in today. Kim, try it out. Let me know. And also let me know if you, how you use it and what you do with it. I love to see pictures of what people's projects are. But again, if you have a question about a technique and you want to see it on a Serger Savvy or even a tip clip, which is always pre-recorded, I will be happy to take those into consideration, because I know I had a couple of suggestions. One woman had asked me to do the flat lock beading for her, to show her how to do that, and that came in as a suggestion. And there was one other Serger Savvy that was via a suggestion as well. So I do look at those, and I'm always, I want to show you what you want to learn. So I think that's great. And but I do want to mention again, Christmas in July. Keep your eye open for maybe some specials coming up July 25th through the 31st. Today is the 19th, so that's only about a week away. I am going to be in Illinois at the Sewing Studio in Hudson, Illinois. I'm leaving next Wednesday. Their event is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I will also be a few other places that I don't have written down off the top of my head, but I know one of them I'll be at Flash Sew and Vac in Florida in September, I believe. I will be out at Mel's Sewing and Fabric Center in Anaheim, California in late September. So I've got kind of a busy late summer, early fall, and mid fall schedule going on. I also just signed up to do a little quick demo for the Rhode Island Sewing Network. I spoke there years ago, and I hadn't been back since. And the woman who schedules their events contacted me this past week and asked if I could come back and do a presentation. So I'm excited to see all the ladies there because I haven't seen them for a long time. But anyway. Okay, so we are heading up to the hour. Sherry says she's thinking to decorate a raglan sleeve on a plain knit. Wouldn't that be pretty? If you do, definitely send a picture because we all really love that kind of inspiration. It's really, really nice to see what other people are doing. Michelle, you said any tricks to serge viscose? Tried 3 threads. What are you trying to do on the viscose? Is that is sort of a high-end rayon, if I'm not mistaken. Very fluid, very drapey. I love viscose. It's really, really nice. But because it is so drapey, it just depends on what you're trying to do. Is it a seam that you're trying to do or some kind of embellishment? I'm not quite sure. But let me look at the rest of the questions and make sure I'm not missing anything. Going back to Diane, you said, could you use these settings on the Triumph? Yeah, that's the baby lock top of the line combo. Yeah, you would set up for a 3-thread overlock on your Triumph. Your ABCD stitch selector will be on D as in delicate, because what that does is it feeds less fabric per stitch, but also that D setting, it tightens up the tension on your upper looper. So yes, you can do that. In fact, the very first time I did this at a dealer event was on a Triumph. It was years ago. And I don't know why I never thought to do a tip clip on this before. But it is just a great technique. So yes, you can definitely do that. And you'll want to just turn your dial on the front side of your machine that has the 1, 2, 3, 4, your stitch length one. Don't forget to turn that to rolled hem, because that disengages your stitch finger for that narrow stitch. Stitch width, you can experiment. That's the little knob right above that 1, 2, 3, 4 stitch length dial. It has the gray whorl that goes from narrow to wide, and the narrower the whorl, the narrower the stitch. So you can play around with that as well. But yes, you can definitely do that on your Triumph. That's not a problem at all. That'll do a very nice rolled hem for you. Michelle said just the edges to avoid. Oh, so are you just finishing the, oh, I see, you're just finishing the edge. Maybe if you're doing that, like if you're pre-washing your fabric to avoid the fraying or something like that, maybe it could be just either your stitch width that you might want to increase just a little bit, but test it on your scrap pieces of fabric and test it going in the same grain direction as your actual project is. But I would say probably if you widen out your stitch just a little bit, that might help you. You're welcome, Diane. And you might want to play around also with your stitch length, Michelle. Not seeing it. Can you tell me exactly what was happening with the fabric? What was the problem? Let me put it like that. did you just not like the way it looked, or was it doing something funky? Let me know. I don't think did I miss any other questions? Oh, what is the name of the attachment? The attachment that I'm using, it's the presser foot. It's the blind stitch foot on my machine. Depending, I know a lot of brands of sergers do have a blind stitch foot for their machines. That's one of the more basic ones that a lot of them do carry. But if you don't have that, I know that the lace applicator foot on the baby lock will work equally as well for this technique. Oh, it runs away. Oh, so does it slide off? Does it slide off to the left? Is that what you're talking about? Because it may be just a matter of how you control the fabric as it's being stitched. And some fabrics really are persnickety. You also might want to try adjusting. You might want to try adjusting your presser foot pressure and see if that helps. Maybe, yes, it slides off to the left. I would, with my left hand, I would try to control that fabric maybe just a little bit more and kind of keep it angled a little bit to the right in front of the foot. Let me go back to my machine just so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. I'm going to bring my camera up and out just a smidge. All right, so I'm just going to use the knit fabric that I have because it's what I have right near here. So when you're working with that, what I would do is I would keep my left hand flat, and without stretching the fabric with my right hand, I would keep it angled just a little bit to the right to see if that helps. But I think if you adjust your presser foot pressure, that might help you a little bit as well. Maybe you can just increase that presser foot pressure just a smidge and see if that doesn't help you control it. But the thing that you want to do is make sure that you're not pulling and stretching, strictly controlling where the fabric is. And I like to use that left hand to kind of keep it guided along flat and maybe hold the edge of the fabric with my right hand, but don't put any tension on it at all. So see if that doesn't help you. And if it doesn't, just shoot me an email and let's see if we can brainstorm a little more on that, because I want you to get a good result with that. Any other questions or anything? Thank you so much for joining me today. And the next one will be, let me look at what the second Tuesday of August, that date is. That second date is it should be August 12th. So that will be the next scheduled Serger Savvy. And oh, you're welcome, Kim. Oh, Michelle, you decrease the pressure. Yeah, try increasing it just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit on your fabric and see if it doesn't help. Let me see if I have any of my dates here for where I'm going to be. In September, the mid-September, 17th, 18th, 19th, I'm going to be at Inspire to Sew in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So if you're out there, I hope you can join me. Now that I just thought of this, that now I have this. And as I say, next week I'm headed out to the Chicago. Well, I think I'm a couple hours away from Chicago in Hudson, Illinois. So thank you all very much. Oh, hi. Oh, Michelle from Switzerland. Yay. I wonder if you're anywhere near the Bernina factory out there or the Bernina headquarters. They're in Steckborn. I have been to Basel. It was many years ago, but I have never been to Steckborn, so I've got that on my bucket list. But anyway, we're heading up to the hour. If you think of anything else that you want to talk about, or again, I am looking for ideas for upcoming Serger Savvies, also Serger tip clips too. So send your ideas along. I'll be very happy to listen to them. And I hope you enjoyed this today. And as we all know, we love wearing knit fabrics. What's more comfortable, especially, well, I shouldn't say just for travel, but for every day as well. So I hope you have a great weekend. Stay cool. The heat finally broke in Connecticut. It's really, really nice. Yesterday and today have been just beautiful. And I will see you again here the second Tuesday in August. Oh, Michelle, you're in Geneva. Oh, okay, great. Beautiful. And from Reno, Nevada. Okay, great. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. And I will see you the second Tuesday in August. Happy sewing and serging.